Actually live now. Hi.
Woo!
Oh man, there's too much reverb on that. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, James, I actually like that. No, I definitely need to. Yeah, no, you should start streams that way.
I know. I wish I had a better snare drum.
Fire sound over here. I'll play
Justin,
Yeah, that's what we need. Justin you need
is
to do
a
the choir.
Yeah, Justin's a robot right now.
I teach in a million places, so a lot of my gear is spread out. So I have my crappiest snare drum in my home studio right now, but doesn't sound as epic as the whatever VST snare drum that.
Guess who's here?
Score, but
Guess who's joining?
Hey man, that could have been a
Hey.
from BST. Hello.
I just remembered also how to open the comments, so I didn't see them until now. I didn't know that anyone was like even here. So it's been a while since we've streamed. Justin,
It's
work
been
on
a
your
long
gain.
time.
Long time. Hey, Christina.
I will say, Xanthi, that you told us well ahead of time that we were about to go live, so it's already a great improvement out of previous seasons, as opposed to just being like, "Hey, guess what, guys? We've been live for the last 2 minutes."
I don't do that.
Yeah, you definitely don't do that. You definitely haven't done that multiple times.
Hi, Christina.
Hello.
I'm just seeing who's here. Jeannie from Tahini. Hello. Arik Fonts Ender. Hello. Gary24 fan says, "Hey, Arik. Hey, hi, Jeannie. Really happy to see you are back. I thought these opening 3 episodes were great, and I'm excited to hear everyone's thoughts on the music and sound effects." Hannah. Ooh, musician. And I don't know who these people are. James and Justin. Whatever.
Who are those folks?
Whatever. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about The Bad Batch Season 3, Episodes 1, 2, and 3. I liked them. I thought they were
Whoa.
I like them a lot. They're fun.
Justin, what just
That was
happened
just
to you?
that was a really shaky reaction we just did between.
I'm surprised. I'm not surprised. But I will say, in terms of like what these episodes were like for me, like to me, there's like 2 episodes that are exactly what I love about this show, and then 1 episode which is exactly what I'm not so crazy about this show.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Justin, you're roboting, which is funny because Justin plays a droid in our RPG.
Aw, that's fun.
You're still
Any better?
no.
No, it's worse, in fact.
It's not worse. He's just closer to the mic.
We
okay, wait.
we
In the
haven't
meantime,
done this in a long time.
I know. And okay, wait. Let's talk about why. Well, first of all, is the last thing we did The Bad Batch
Andor.
Season 2?
No, Andor, right?
I think
Didn't
Andor happened
happen?
before. Yeah.
Wait a second. You know what? I just had a moment. I literally was thinking today. I was like, "Oh, the last thing we did was Andor, and that was just this past fall." It was not this past fall, was it? It was a
No.
year. It was 2 falls ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so The Bad Batch Season 2 came out and we covered it. And then The Mandalorian Season 3 came out. We did not cover it.
Right.
And then when Ahsoka was coming out,
Yeah.
that's when the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes were going on, and so we did not do that. We did not cover it to be in solidarity with the people striking, because we're all in the entertainment/arts industry as well. So it just was a little bit close to home for us.
For sure.
So thank you for the patience. I've definitely have been seeing the comments on old videos being like, "I hope you guys come back." So yeah, we're happy to be back.
We're back.
Okay, So we're actually getting back to our roots, which is the Bad Batch, which is where we started this show. In the comments, drop like if you have any favorite moments or if you noticed anything in particular that was new, musically or sound wise, in these first 3 episodes. And in the meantime, Christina, James, Justin, doing something. What are your initial thoughts? Or do you want to just jump into playing some music?
I can give
We
like
could,
an overview thoughts
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
just of I really liked episode 1. I remember being really thrilled with episode 1, and by the end of it, I like kind of felt like I had watched 2 episodes almost.
Mm.
I was like, wait, there's still 2 more, and I'm only on the first one, and okay. And my notes reflect that. They're really long. And then episode 2, I have 1 page of notes for.
Hello?
Um, it was a
You're
little
so much
more,
better,
what was that? Oh, Justin, yeah.
Justin Sanchez.
Yeah, and then episode 2 was a little simpler, maybe, or just a little more standard Bad Batch, is what came to mind for me. And then episode 3 had a lot, at least particularly, I guess, plot-wise, it had a lot. So therefore, you know,
James, is the thing that you didn't like, was it the stuff with the M count?
No,
Oh,
that's the
okay.
stuff I like.
Okay.
Okay.
M count.
You know me. I just wanted, to me, ever since Rise of Skywalker came out, I've wanted these animated shows and these shoot-offs to like tie it all in, make me feel way better about that movie. And they're slowly doing it. I know that Xanthe, you and I think one of the first things we ever talked about is our differing opinions about that movie. And these types of things are the things I've been wanting for a while, which is like, can you just make it all make sense for me, please? That'd be awesome. And this show is seemingly going to do that. And then they're like, you know what? Let's stop doing that for a second and let's go shoot some innocent wildlife for an episode. And have us like end up basically in the same situation that we were at the beginning of that episode, and then go back to the real story, right? That's how I felt about that second episode, which is like a typical bad batch. Like, all right, we're just inching towards, you know, the plot is inching forward, but why don't we go and just shoot some large monsters while we're at it, right? So,
I mean, I will just say to that, I hear you. I see you. I acknowledge that. I don't think they showed up on a planet to just shoot some large monsters, but I hear you. I get what you're
Yes,
going at.
true.
I think there's a little bit more nuance to that situation than let's go
there
shoot some
is.
innocent
Right.
creatures
No,
for fun.
there is.
And then get back to the plot. No, totally. I'm messing with you, but I hear you. I think what I would say about these 3 episodes too is kind of what I'm hearing about everyone. The first episode for me was like, we're back, we're here, this is cool, this is interesting, this is intriguing. Second episode, Monster of the Week.
I
Monster of the
totally
Week.
disagree
then-
about episode 2.
And then, well, it tinged back on. Okay, hold on. It tinges back to that kind of feel, and then the third episode we get back to, you know, we're skipping between 2 plots. But what I like about what it's doing is that the very first season started as, oh, okay, it's going to be Adventure of the Week. This is the game. This is what's happening. And it slowly became an arc, and it got interesting. And then we got season 2, and we're like, oh, we went back. Okay, we went back to Adventure of the Week. Okay, we can do this for a while. And then it kind of picked up the arc again and got interesting. Like, really interesting again towards the end. And then I think this season is going to be, hopefully, 3 episodes in, who the heck knows, more arc. I think they're
that's
just
what I'm
gonna
hoping for.
let's just arc this out, but we have to kind of like recover all these other characters. you
I'll
know?
say this. Xanthe, I think I remember you telling me when we did like Last Jedi that like sometimes you just kind of tune out during like the big like fight scenes.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, okay, like when there's like during like space fight scenes, I think was specifically what you were talking about, right? That's kind of how I feel about like the Bad Batch, like fighting any type of like monster, any type of thing that like that sits in the way of like plot development to more plot development, and there's big booms and explosions. I kind of am just like, all right, okay, fight the vines, fight the fight
Oh
the
yeah, I tuned
vegetation.
out for a lot of that
Yeah.
too.
That's how I feel about those episodes. I think
But
that's
for
where
me, the part that was so different than usual Monster of the Week episodes was the fact that the people that they met weren't just like random people. I'm giving it
That's
I'm
true.
keeping an open mind because it
Totally.
wasn't just random
There's-
like it wasn't like random foreign planet people that they were just going to help. It was like also fellow clones, so it felt like there was a possibility for more something more there than just just some
Right.
random hapless citizens of some.
that's true.
Right. And what's interesting too is that those episodes musically fall into what Christina said, just kind of generic Bad Batch or a Bad Batch like action music. Here it goes, dun, 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 doing its thing. Where this first episode and the second episode were so much more musically driven. They took pause and let the characters not talk and not run around and not shoot and sneak around and try to do some detective work and figure things out. And they just let the music really set that tone, which is probably why I too have like no notes for the second episode. A couple
Yeah, me
things
neither.
that I liked, and then the first and the third episode, I'm like, yes, all of this.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of interesting.
I've been seeing a lot on the internet that like there's a lot of Halo similarities, apparently. In both the first and second episode. Apparently there's like some type of creature that is in those games that resembles a lot of the creature from the second episode. I've never played Halo in my whole life. So
mean the
I
slither
couldn't speak to that. Yeah. They were saying that represents some type of, or not represents, but it's kind of like seemingly a nod to some character from Halo. And apparently in the beginning of the first episode, there's some Halo vibes apparently as well. But again, I'm not really a Xbox
That's
guy,
interesting
so.
because the creature to me was like Alien. It was giving me like the Silent
Yeah,
Hill
Xenomorph.
Alien
Yeah, or
vibes.
Lovecraftian stuff, right?
Yeah, or what's that? There was a video game. I only played I don't play many video games, but just a little bit of a game called Dead Space. It really reminded me of that game.
I remember that game.
It's kind of a horror-based spaceship aliens attacking. Well, alien zombies, but that was different.
I think episode 2 actually had some really cool music, but the sound design, like the big loud boom stuff, was covering it quite a bit. But there was some cool, sort of more horror-esque, atmospheric type of stuff, and some cool, like very jagged sounding, like atonal, but not necessarily sounding stuff toward like around like 18 minutes. Some cool string textures, like some like sul ponticello tremolo stuff, like really close to the bridge,
Yep.
like type of thing.
Yeah, the orchestration was really cool, I would
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
in some of these
Yeah.
scenes.
I think
Between
what
the...
I mean by like,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think just what I mean by like generic. It's not that it's not exciting and interesting, cool things happening in the moments. It's just insert action music a little bit, and then we can like pick apart what that is. But you're right, the sound effects was way over the orchestra in this episode.
I want to get
Sounds like-
Christina's thoughts, and also I want to acknowledge a few comments. Gary24 fan says, I caught the fact that Omega is keeping a tally of her days in confinement, like Rey is doing on Jakku. Yes, I noted that too.
cool.
Omega's a clone, Rey's the daughter of a clone. And then Ender, Arik Fonts says, action at its best demonstrates progression of the plot and characters, but only if how they fight supports it. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. Right, he watched all of season 2
Gosh.
recently. Caught
my
up.
God,
Really have to
is your brain like mush?
And Joel, yes, we are finishing The Rise of Skywalker. It cut off because of the strike as well, and then it just, finding the right time to jump back in. But it is jumping back in
Honestly,
very soon.
it's pretty good timing because this
I
seems
know.
it's gonna be some Rise of Skywalker tie-ins a lot this season. It seems like, if you ask me. So.
All right, Christina, your thoughts.
I have an interjection. What's on your coffee cup, James? I saw that.
Oh my God.
I know my audience,
Who? Your
Nice.
audience, Christina and me?
Yes.
No,
That went
it,
over
it
really
needs
well.
to be.
Good job.
It needs to be Dad Bod Thrawn.
That's right. It needs to be Elon Musk Thrawn.
And it needs to
Oh,
be
I thought you were
beer
going to say
gut.
Eli, and I
beer-
got excited.
Beer gut Thrawn.
I need to get there needs to be like a Star Wars Tesla mug with
No, James, stop.
new.
Stop.
Oh,
Don't do it.
going to be
I
sick.
know
Um,
it's pretty rough.
But it would be
pretty
good.
rough.
Yeah, I think this episode had a lot of throwbacks in it. A lot of connections to other things.
So are you
I
talking about the
wouldn't
first
recognize most
episode or the second one?
Oh, the second episode
Okay,
still,
yeah.
I guess.
That's fine.
It seems like we're kind of on the second episode almost. It'd be kind of funny if we just
Yeah.
like do that.
Might as well get
might
it out of the
be
way,
thematically smart if we do that because the second episode, because the first and third episode use a lot of the same thematic music and the same concepts because they're really about Hemlock's lab, whereas this second episode is not there, and so that could be interesting if we do that. I don't know though. But yeah, I think this episode had a lot of throwbacks to different things. I saw some in the same section that you mentioned, Chrysanthe, the 18-minute vibe, kind of leading 14 to 20, kind of around there. I loved, well, at 14:50 there was like a classic sound and camera combo, sorry, of like they're all at the console and like the horror music is building, we know something's coming, and then you get the camera shot from the ground point of view, the monster approaching, and you get the sound of just like a unclear scream during that, and that's super classic for all of those like uh like Night of the Living Dead,
Yeah.
like 1970s, like kind of like John Carpenter vibes. That's it, like I feel like it's a strong throwback to that kind of part of classic campy horror, which is great.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was this episode or a different one where I felt like there was almost a reference to like Godzilla music. It may have been
Godzilla
actually,
music.
It actually may have been the next. It actually may have been the third episode. Not like just something that evoked Godzilla to me.
That's interesting.
Episode 2, James, I thought you would have something to say about the percussion used in it.
Talking about like those like temple bowl sounds.
Yeah, and then like the PVC pipes type stuff, perhaps.
Hear PVC stuff. Where did you hear PVC stuff?
Or maybe it's what you just said. I mean, the kind
Talk
of
about in the
kind of
Devorian
pitched,
tempo.
the pitched percussion that was very reverberant.
Talk
I was
about in
gonna
the
say,
beginning in the temple.
No,
Or like the
As
temple,
is
or
it as
whatever you
is
wanna
it
call
as
the
they're
castle.
flying into
like at 5:20,
the,
for example.
Yeah, that's the beginning of the
Okay, you're okay.
oh wait, you're right. That's not the temple though. One second,
Yeah.
let me listen for a second.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. As they're flying into it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, those sound like either frame drum or like Arabic drumming samples or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
like some type of goblet drum, kind of with finger rolls. Those are kind of nice. Yeah,
Can you,
there's some cool percussive things going on, especially like I mentioned, like in the beginning of the temple scene. Which I just gotta throw this out there. Does anyone notice that like every race in Star Wars just has a giant castle, like every and then, like with like a really like like ominous throne in them. Like every group of people in Star Wars seem to like live in a castle. We got like the Mandalorians have a castle, the Pikes have a palace, Devorians now have a castle. There's like all these scenes in Clone Wars where every time they go to a new planet, they gotta like meet the leader who happens to live in a giant castle on a throne.
that's like
You ever
way
notice
too
this?
big for that person.
Yeah, it's always way too big. There's like not enough people to really necessitate like a giant castle. Anyway, so yeah, there were some of these like nice kind of like kind of ringing potted plant sounds over it, like
Like
at
the
like
brum, brum.
yeah, like 1 minute in, we have these like kind of like tapping cool percussive sounds. Yeah, there was some cool stuff happening throughout this particular episode. And like we mentioned, you had some kind of those like those stabby horror moments.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these like kind of like interesting like bass drum rolls and cymbal hits throughout, and like little percussive stuff that really, I think, like the orchestration, I have to say, like across the board, I think that the show has I think just in terms of it just being more interesting. I feel like the textures and the orchestration and just what is happening score wise this season, I think is like head and shoulders above where it was in season 1. Like I remember
Yeah, I think so
being,
too.
we are far away from bump ba bum bump. Yeah, go for it.
I knew
It's
that
back.
you were.
It's back.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's just it. I think there seems to be. I don't know. It's also was. Did he have his sons working with him in the first season?
His son and daughter, Deanna and what's the other one's name? Sean. Yeah, this is the first time that I've seen that. It's credited to all
three
of
of
the Kiners that actually do work
Yeah.
on it.
Oh, awesome.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it seems to be going a long way because it seems like the rest of his fam is like really, I don't know. There just seems to be more purpose throughout. I would say, like it seems like there's less filler music. You know.
I mean, but they've all been working on it this whole time. So, and they've been a team since like Rebels. Like I know because like there's an interview about Thrawn's theme, and I think it's like either Sean or Deanna saying how they came up with Thrawn's theme, because it wasn't Kevin, but it just they were all going under the one name. So I don't know if like anything's changed or if just they're just being credited differently because it's been so long.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting. Well, they're
Yeah.
also like significantly older, you know, like
yeah, that's
than
true.
they were, right? So they're probably a little bit more established, they have more experience with the business, so they can be probably a little bit more.
And I'm sure that other people work on it too, because it's not also just the three of them, because also David Glenn Russell works on all this stuff with them, and he does a ton of work. He writes cues as well. So, yeah, it's a big team. Not just you know how it is in film
Yeah.
media composing. Most people don't get credited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
But what's cool about having all three of them, obviously prominent now in the credits, is that we're recognizing on page, on screen, that it's a team. I mean, we've all known it's a team, but like here it is, words are there, the names are there, and we're getting like all this influence from everybody, which is cool. And it's really starting to shine through. Like James, you're mentioning the orchestrations. There's so much like electronics and orchestra. I know there are probably samples or some sort of library made from real recordings of sorts. But like, I find that the electronic sounds and the more acoustic sounds are really, really well blended. And I think that's a really difficult thing to do sometimes, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's like synth. It's like, oh, okay, it's the synth time now,
Right.
or like some kind of electronic beat underneath, really fast chasey kind of strings and stuff like that. But they do such a great job at blending it all. There's moments and we'll get to the other episodes, where the big theme of the other episodes was like really blending through all these different tonal palettes, to the point where I was questioning, like, no, hold on, is that a piano? Is that a this? Is that a this? Is that what's going on here? Which was cool. Um, and they're combining these elements. So like that percussion part we were talking about at the beginning, as they fly in around 15, 20 kind of a thing. They've got, yeah, it's the big frame drum. It feels like a room kind of a thing, but it's got an echo. Like they're not just going boom, quieter,
Yeah.
quieter. That's just a straight up echo pedal kind of a thing, or echo kind of effect, which was kind of cool. To hear that just like blatantly used, it was a little off putting at first. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, echo, great, let's do this.
Well, it's just trying to remind us what character we haven't seen yet, you know? So
I know.
I think that's what the
Yeah, I feel like
issue
this.
is.
I think the score.
happened
I
with it?
think there's been a lot more interesting uses of synths, I guess, and just like I don't know, sound effects and stuff like that in the music, sound mixing and processing and stuff. I feel like it's been getting progressively more interesting, to the point where now it feels, like how we all loved it in Andor. It felt really purposeful and mindful and just like part of their style. And that's, I like to see that, because it doesn't sound like John Williams in those points, but I like it because it's actually sounding different, but also considered,
Yeah,
which I'm a fan of.
yeah.
Christina, what are you eating?
I'm sorry that I need it. I have my breakfast pancake.
What is it?
Oh, it's a
it's
pancake.
Oh, that's
my
not, I
breakfast
thought that was
pancake.
pizza. It looked like pizza for a second.
It's very cool.
Oh,
It's kind of like a pizza. It's a
oh,
scallion
I know why.
pancake on one side, but then with
Oh.
an egg stuck to it on the other
I
side.
see. It's because you
Yum.
were eating it like a pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That is totally how it's eaten. And can you hear me chewing?
I can't.
Well, I can't. No, I think you're good.
No.
The only thing I hear is James's headphone bleed.
Sorry. Is it bad?
James, you got it. It's kind of bad. Okay, cutting room floor
Sorry,
says.
I have
Drummer.
drummer ears.
I know you do. It's a thing. For once, I want to see someone live in a duplex instead of a castle.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess, I mean, we have, what's his name from Andor, living in an apartment,
Right.
It's nice to see,
Cyril.
Aw,
And then,
sad boy
um,
Cyril.
Cyril.
and then I didn't actually realize this. The second episode, I liked Daniel Logan, the original young Boba Fett, and I think it's hilarious that they keep pairing D. Bradley Baker with actors who actually have Kiwi accents. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is pretty funny. Yeah.
I didn't realize that was Daniel Logan's voice. Is that what the orc's saying?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Playing the young
Good.
clones.
As he should be, right?
I mean, sometimes it doesn't work because maybe the voice has aged too much, but I think he did a
Yeah,
great
sure.
job.
Hey, sounds great.
Yeah. We're
I
big
liked
fans.
having the young clones. I called them the three lost boys, kind of like
Aw.
in Peter Pan in my notes.
So,
And
yeah, my understanding is that they're from episode 1 of this show. Or not episode 1, maybe not episode 1, but they're from the first season. They're 3 cadets that apparently got, that escaped from Camino, or like were leaving Camino or something. Is what I was reading elsewhere.
Do we see them or just hear about them?
I think we see them. Let me
okay.
check
Oh,
on
really?
that. But if anybody else can jump in, but my understanding is that they're from the first season.
Okay.
that's cool.
And that's why they're not just like 3 random characters. They're actually, yeah.
That adds a whole nother
Ma-
level to the kind of excitement of having them in the show, because I think they add a nice they add another dimension to the one of the big themes of the show, which starts with, or which is presented by, what do we do with all of these clones that we made? Like, do we picture them as humans? Do we picture them as property of the Empire? Do we let them have nice lives? Do we just forget about them? who advocates for them, who doesn't advocate for them. That's kind of one of the big themes that really became prominent in season two, um, in a sort of geopolitical, like a galactic political way. But in season one, it was more about from the perspective of the clones, like what do you do when you're like a forgotten person who's not supposed to exist according to uh, the government. Uh, well, I guess specifically for the Bad Batch, but uh, yeah, I think it ties that in nicely, and knowing that maybe these three boys might have been in earlier makes it seem even more purposeful and exciting.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna check that.
That it gives me hope
That was
that
somebody
that's
on
gonna.
Reddit. I'm realizing,
Jeannie from
and
Tahini says, when they are evacuating Camino, there is a kid who asks, are we still going to be soldiers? And I think it's Nala Se who tells him they will complete their training elsewhere.
Interesting.
Christina, to your point, also it
oh,
ties
sorry,
in.
Star Wars. Sorry, just jump in. I just read this.
Yeah, go
Star
ahead.
Wars Explained is the one that I guess explained that recently. So
Okay.
it probably is correct.
Checks out.
If Alex said it. So
Yeah.
so
It also reminds me of the second episode where they, get to that planet and they want to stay for a bit, but obviously it's implied that that's where they're going to be dropping them off afterward. And I liked how that episode ended because it could have ended with like they're joining the Bad Batch, but the Bad Batch is like, no, you have time to like rebuild your life.
We did the one kid thing. Mm-hmm. And now we don't need three.
yeah, they're like, we'll put you somewhere safe. We're not doing this.
And it's kind of cool because it's kind of cool because that also implies. I mean, because we know that Omega's been sitting there for how many tallies of days, and it grows in that first episode. Right. So they might be returning to this island. It's like kind of a home base for them now. It feels like that's a bit implied too. I mean, they're searching everywhere, but if they're saying, hey, we know a place, maybe they're constantly going back. Where is Echo? Where is Echo? I forget where we left him.
With Rex, right? Aren't Rex and Echo together doing something?
Did they? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're trying to help the clones they're trying to be like a kind of an underground railroad for clones to get out of the Empire.
Right.
That's their function. Speaking of function, the other word that was used a lot in these episodes was asset, particularly in relation to Hemlock refers to all of the clones or anyone as assets. And I think that also kind of just speaks to the conversation about how do you consider, in a way, human resources, like their literal resources of the Empire, and where do they decide to take these clones, along with all the really scary scientific experiments that it's not like they're like, oh, let's find like a nice island where the clones can like live happily. No, we're gonna put these we're gonna do like Hemlock's lab, and it's gonna be, yeah, I mean, if you're with the Slithervines, you're not, that's not there are no Slithervines in a vacation spot like that's a clearly dangerous facility, like top level.
There would be a pretty bad
danger
Airbnb review if there were. We're like,
They call Grogu the asset also.
that's true.
They do. And when they refer to, I forget what those are called, those really big, like kind of Godzilla monsters that suck up power.
Zillow.
They eat Zillow. Yes, the Zillow beast. They also refer to that as an asset. And it ties back to certain conversations in the Star Wars universe that are about like how do commanders and higher ups perceive people? Like, do they see them as people? Do they see them as resources to be used and allocated in different ways?
Yes. Yeah, I think I feel like Nala Se really in these set of episodes, I feel like Nala Se really stepped up in my mind as someone quietly aware of, like, she has the more high level overview of what all these assets are purposed for. And so she was able to protect Omega a little bit longer
Right.
from the inside.
Because she basically knows that as soon as that they get her blood sample, they're going to realize that she's her blood. She's an eligible, whatever you call it, donor or whatever, or strand cast or whatever, right? She must have analyzed her blood already, saw that what she knew, and was like, oh, I can't let them get the hands on that because they're going to realize that they're going to need, they're going to subject Omega to further cruelty, right? So.
And then the ironic thing, I guess, is that her M count status blood stuff ended up kind of temporarily protecting her in the end, when they called up, letting her, because they want her alive.
Right.
Can we all say this together? Midi-chlorian.
Yeah.
Midi-chlorian.
Midi-chlorian.
Yeah. Do you think they're specifically saying M count to avoid saying that word? You think?
Yes, I think they are. I think they are.
Whoa.
Oh.
Justin just roboted out, just like short circuit.
Oh,
Oh, that's
Oh,
so
no.
weird.
Oh.
Now he's gone.
Oh, poor Xanthi, do you want to show that tweet that I sent y'all? I thought that was so funny.
Oh yeah, sure.
Can you show that real quick?
Yeah.
We have to give credit
Sorry.
to who.
Yeah.
Threw that up. I saw us. Steele Saunders respond to that. Somehow, this is Lords of the Sith. Somehow Palpatine found a strandcast donor that he could replicate an MCOW with no degradation.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of don't want to know where that's going, but we're going to know. We're going to find out. We're going to find out.
That's the
I'm
biggest
so
difference between
excited
me
about
and you,
where-
is that I desperately want them to just go deep, deep, deep into that, and you really don't. I don't think you do, right?
I don't want to know the answer because chances are it's going to be something I don't like, and I'd rather it be open-ended.
That's true. I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
So
Yeah,
this,
I'm all about that.
Midi-chlorian.
you're Christina's all.
Yeah, me too.
I love that, like
Me too.
sci-fi, tech, cloning. Like that is like what I live for in terms of. I mean, it's not the only thing, but I do love that.
I don't mind the concept and the hints of all of these things, and I personally have defended midichlorians many times. I will defend
Since
them
episode 1.
forever.
Forever.
But there are
to me,
there are so many implications to this that it's just my brain just goes like in a billion directions, and so I'm just trying to corral like my current like theories about how it works. I need to maintain understanding of it, and it feels when it's like to me it doesn't feel. Okay, wait. I probably should not go on this tangent. Okay, it just if I don't understand this, the why of where something is going, then I just can't like. It takes increasingly more work to make my own view make sense to me, and I guess that's what a lot of us as fans do. But midichlorians in particular, I've had an understanding of them that I've become very comfortable with. Anyway, I don't think any of this. I feel like I will be able to adapt. Okay, we'll talk. We'll talk when there's more revealing. We'll see how I'm doing.
Yeah.
I just like I didn't mean to say chlorides.
Midi-chlorians. These are
I just love that the word MIDI.
I know.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I love it so much. My life
You
is
guys
MIDI.
ever read the Madeline Wingle books? The Wrinkle in
No.
Time series, and then the ones. that
Oh,
came
okay,
after
yeah.
that?
I didn't realize
Yeah.
that was the author.
Long time ago.
Because there was a midichlorian thing in that essentially, and to me the concept connects like really immediately. It was so I feel like I was okay with that. I was like, oh, it's just like Madeline Wingle's those things that like the idea that there's like some element of the cell that's specifically what do you call it? Specifically affected by, shall we say, good and evil, or by or just by like the Force, and yeah, I don't know.
the more that the Force is medicalized, the harder it is for me to reconcile it with the great mysteries.
Well, see, I will push against that to a certain extent because my understanding of the whole midi-chlorian things is actually it doesn't explain the Force.
Agreed.
It just explains people's access to the Force. So the Force is still this magical, weird thing that just exists, right? But it's kind of unnecessary in a lot of ways, actually, because it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you're still just saying like, oh, this person's strong in the Force. It's just that you're giving a reason why they are, but you're still not explaining the Force. The Force is still this mystical thing that things can access, right?
Yeah.
But you're just saying, hey, there's a bunch of like multicellular or what do you call it? Microscopic organisms that help you access this still mysterious thing, you know?
Yes. I think the medicalization of the Force in Star Wars kind of mimics what is just like health hacks and like people on Earth trying to maximize like their potential in ways that are like, you know, they're hypotheses, but here we're always, you know, maybe it's this like gene, maybe it's like this blood marker level. Let's try to maximize that. But then at the same time, you could have someone who's like not aware whatsoever of their, I don't know, telomere lengths, like some other random stuff. Maybe they're not aware at all, but they're like also extremely healthy or like, you know, an amazing athlete. And they haven't even like tried to maximize any sort of count of any sort of number. But I feel like, I feel like if I were to write the rest of this where they're going, I would say that like, they extract midichlorians. I would say that probably giving them to the average person might not even do much, but I feel like, I guess I can reconcile that maybe it does something for Palpatine specifically because he's already shown to have the markers that he responds well to them. Like he already has them, so he can already metabolize them. I don't know. Sorry, science people in the chat.
Well, I just, to me, I think that the whole, I think in many ways, like the exploration of this idea, this scientific idea behind Force access, like thematically cements, like in many ways, why the dark side always ends up failing, right? And why the balance of the Force continues to balance its way out. It's because basically the whole thing behind Palpatine, the more we learn about, it seemingly didn't really know too much about this pre any like spin-off shows, but Palpatine just becomes clearing that he is trying to completely control his place as you know, ruler of the galaxy by doing everything in his power to like study the Force, clone, you know, doing the world between world, do everything on a scientific controlling level. I want to control the Force. I want to control destiny. I want to control everything. I want to put everything. But even after all that crap, the Force says, nope, that's not how this works. You can't control it. You're done. Okay. And so like in many ways, I think that thematically within Star Wars, the fact that the dark side is so obsessed with this, and that's in many ways, like you can see, maybe you could probably point to why the Jedi like fell, because maybe they got to a point where they cared too much about midichlorians and not enough about just the spiritual truth of the Force, right?
Yeah. I agree with you so much, James. And I think that is just also just a great irony, because these are all hypotheses and we know what happens later in this timeline. Like this, it does not end up being like something that really, like by the time Rey comes around, like the way that people learn to use the Force and like is still pretty much the same analog, like old school methods. It's not like, and the dark side loses again. So yeah.
Well, it's interesting.
Ender
too,
says, I would love it if the medicalization is a failure of the dark side.
That would be nice.
would be
yeah,
cool. I
we'll
agree
see,
with
Arik.
that. Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I kind of feel. Sorry, go ahead, Christina.
I think the real failing is the control aspect, and I can't tell if that's kind of like sort of what you're saying, and I'm just like repeating what you're saying to you.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm saying.
It's it's also tied to wanting
Okay,
to
cool.
just cheat death in general, and how a
Oh,
downfall
God.
is always like trying to, you know, live forever and it ends up destroying everything. Like with every iteration of like Sith, if we want to get specific, like it's a big fallacy that's repeated and they don't learn. And it even ties into the Empire's dealings, where the Empire has so many resources, but because they need to control everything so much, they sometimes end up missing stuff, which is what we were seeing in Andor, especially. Okay, go on,
I
Christina.
think it's also the failing of the Jedi, because the Jedi really got into this whole like there is a right way to be a Jedi and there's a wrong way to be the Jedi. We're all super terrified of the dark side. You can't even think about the dark side. You can't tell your master that you thought about the dark side unless you're really thinking about it, and you're gonna like I feel like a lot of the Padawans and masters just experience a lot of like really feeling like they're in a box or a tunnel, and like there's this very specific thing that they need to do it, that comes from, I guess, the Jedi infrastructure. I guess each individual Jedi might not be like that, but the overall infrastructure of the
Supports
Jedi
that.
very much supports this controlled thing. And a lot of the books kind of imply that Jedi that or Padawans or masters, whatever, that experienced something too dark side-ish or anything, basically just kind of like got fired from being Jedi anymore, and they were like, no, you can like work in the temple doing gardening or something, like uh it seems like that happens on a I mean, you have to wonder like what happens to all the Jedi that don't pass, and I just see, I feel like control is a really big theme here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a lot of more good conversation of this happening, but maybe we should turn to some music.
Yeah, probably.
Totally.
Because we did have this somewhat new, but not new at all, but we had this new incessantly repeating line,
Yeah.
incessantly repeating line.
Which
that
seems to be the point of it.
Yes. That also which, of course, mirrored the dripping water was like a recurring, there was like lots of sounds that were recurring motifs. The routine of Omega waking up in her cell, doing the tick mark, looking at her doll, and then Dr. whatever her name is being like, we have lots of work to do, or like time to get to work, or whatever she says every day, like pretty much the same script. Yeah, so I know that Justin had a synth out. Do you want to play the little the plucky line? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I was yeah. Oh wait, hold on. I had it right here. Haha. Hit my notes. Right.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's got, yeah, you're right. It's got that. It's incessant. I like that description. It represents so many things here. It's the passing of time. It's routine, like you said. It's everything is kind of doing it. The dripping of the water. The vial samples looks like a clock. It's like ticking down constantly. And every time this theme comes back, it's a little different. Maybe it's a little slower. Maybe it's a little faster. Maybe we add some motion. Maybe we take it away. And it even goes into like episode 3, right? Which kind of makes episode 1 and 3 very much connected. Like it continues developing musically.
And it changes to, if I'm not incorrect, changes to C minor in episode 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes somewhere else.
It might go to other keys too.
Yeah, and this to me would kind of called back a little to Andor. Because there was music in that where it was showing
reminded
the routine
me
and
of
the timing of and all those things. It was cool. It was like a cool little visually and musically thematic similarity to it all.
Yeah, it reminded me of the. I have to find a better synth. What up? I should have gotten my notebook out. The Mon Mothma music.
Yeah, there was that, and them in the right, and them in the prison specifically, like when they're doing their work and they have to do the same routine every day, and they're waking up and they go to bed, and That had a lot of that kind of idea of a music.
This this little, first of all, the first time it plays, maybe it's the second time, I don't know. It's one of those like themes, or I guess 4 bars. Oh, that's good. Okay, it's sufficient. It's actually not that good. That will do. Okay. It repeats. It's set up so that like you can just keep repeating it on loop. The first time it does like dip down an octave for dialogue.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just up, and it repeated so many times I just lost count. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, did you get a MIDI note stuck?
Oh my god.
That was fun.
Oh, that was really terrifying. Sorry. I thought
Nice
there
to
was
get
like
there.
my building was having a fire alarm or something. I don't know. That was
Oh,
I just froze like a deer. Okay.
which is totally in theme because that music is so like it makes you ready to be scared when something does happen.
And
That's nice.
also it overlays like you said it's one of those, it reminds me of Ray's theme in that it's just like so open to whatever you may overlay, like it's very open, mostly A minor thing. So then there was the cool part where there's the violin like over
Yeah.
happening over it,
Yeah.
and it was in a period of more movement. And then there was also the arpeggiator, the synth arpeggiator on. So, except it was probably an arpeggiator, not arpeggios being played. And then I also want to call attention to this theme from last season that we deemed here. I'll put it up.
I have no recollection.
It's okay. So, the clone facility theme.
Right.
And this, if you transpose this to, actually, let me. I did do this, and I wrote it down just so it'd be easier to see. I'll put it on screen. Basically, the thing is, I would be surprised if we don't hear these overlaid at some point. They seem.
Oh, both
they
of these
seem.
themes.
Yeah, they seem ready for it.
Well, what's
me.
interesting about that second theme?
Can you do
is
it?
that-
Sam?
Yeah, certainly. I'm so glad you asked.
Let's hear it.
So first, the fact that they both also have this diminished thing at the end. So
Yeah.
B right, and then you can fudge.
Woo. Gazelle.
Oh my god!
What was that?
What was that?
Was that on your end or was that on?
Oh, that's me. Haha. I put my elbow on something. I was just listening, and I was like, I have a. I'm not using it today, but I have a thing right here, and sorry.
Justin, That literally started like
You don't remember that
gunshots.
part? You don't remember this in the show when it's this brooding music and just out of nowhere breakbeats come in?
We are in rare form today.
Rare form today. Oh my goodness. I'm just
At first, I thought someone was trying to like clap, but like with like percussion. I was like, it's kind
Dude,
of
I thought there was like a shooting in one of the
right, and then I thought it was
somebody's
something.
Yeah.
And then I,
no. I'm sorry, friends.
it's really, it's funny though. Yeah, it's funny what musicians like accidentally hit, and it's like some breakbeat. Okay, Matthew says the music reminded me of Lucas THX 1138, which Andor was also
Yeah.
taking influence from. Yep.
Yeah, I think that.
I'm crying.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have tears in my eyes.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I started.
Is it like my turn to like have like one of my
No.
drums like blow up
No.
or something?
No.
So yeah, I think this, you mentioned like the cyclic nature of this theme is just
Yes.
so
Like the
representative.
centrifugal.
Yeah, it just keeps going, just like every single day. I thought they did a great job of making just her existence in this facility just seem so hopeless, monotonous, and just yeah. And I thought the sound, everything, the sound design, the atmosphere of the score, and everything for this first and third episode were just great. I just thought like just the atmosphere that they set on this whole thing was just so ominous and just yeah, it was really really well done. A lot of the different sounds of the synths that they pick, they had lots of like little like swishes and whooshes of sound. It sounded almost. I always use like, you know, Dennis. What's his last name? Dune guy. Dune
Villeneuve.
director.
What?
His, yeah, and the Zimmer
Vinny?
scores that are in some of his movies are kind of remind me of some of the work that they do in these types of scenes for Bad Batch for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really
I
successful. I think Oh, keep going, Justin.
Oh no, it's okay. We'll keep going. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well,
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the continuing from what you were just saying, James, the I'm clearly slow today. The relationship between the sound design, the and the orchestral music, and then the blend in the orchestral music to synth
Mhm.
music that sounds like it could be sound design to sound design that it could maybe actually be soundtrack, and then the visual components that also mirror that. There's kind of a visual poetry that goes with it, where we get a lot of shots of just like the centrifuge turning or the faucet
Yeah.
dripping. It's a lot of these shots where it's definitely not there's not a subject of the shot. It's more of a poetic shot. It's more of a like you can take from it what you will, and they blend together, the sound, the audio, all of it. And also they're really well they're just properly and cleverly orchestrated to make everything clear as well. And what I mean by that is, like, in that we were just kind of talking about, like, we get to that first scene of episode 1 where Omega wakes up in her cell, and I also call it the confinement theme. So yeah, the confinement theme comes in super high, along with those beautiful shots of the sunlight coming in. So it kind of just feels like this atmospheric bleed coming in of music and visuals. And then as soon as Emery enters and and you know, says her usual "Good morning, Omega. How are you feeling today?" Emery has a kind of a low, smooth, very sonorous voice, I think. Uh, and and that wouldn't be very audible if the melody had not descended an octave naturally and then moved into the alto range, because then it's under Emery's voice, not
Mm.
competing with Emery's voice. So they
Yeah.
actually make space for the voice actors to really work with with the music. And there's a lot of interesting voice actors. Emery's voice is pretty cool. I think it's really smooth. Dr. Hemlock's voice
Yeah,
is really
Matt
Dr.
Damon or
Hemlock?
whatever that
smooth
guy
and
is.
low.
Wait, sorry, who is it? It's not
I
Matt
don't know.
Damon, right?
Does it? No, it just sounds like Matt Damon to me. He sounds like evil soft-spoken Matt Damon to me, and he kind of looks like Matt Damon to me. Does,
Yeah, like
does
that.
anyone else get that vibe?
I'm just thinking of Oppenheimer.
He's really giving Matt Damon to me, you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
And the voice actor's
that's
name
right.
is
I forgot he
Carissa
was in that movie.
Yeah, not kind of as an evil, not evil, but like kind of as a slightly scary person working for the government.
I could see more of a.
But his voice was definitely not like that. But Dr. Hemlock is terrifying. Like his voice scares me so much.
Yeah, he sucks.
It's because he has an amazing voice. He really like there's a lot of rich, deep tone, but specifically kept quiet and under control. Like you know that he's specifically talking quietly. He absolutely never needs to shout, ever, at any
Right.
point. He doesn't use really hard consonants. He never says k or t or s. He always says like "Ugh." Like it's all about that meat, that scary kind of like substance. And I think that connects also to why like Nala Se has a fascinating
Yeah,
voice.
she has a very fascinating
From
voice and cadence.
Gwendolyn Yeo is the voice actor, and her voice is. I mean, I actually wrote down all of my favorite words that she said because it's just like some of the words are just amazing. She says, like in season 3 when she's telling, or in episode 3 when she's telling Omega to take the data pad and stuff, she goes, "Go to my lab and take my data pad." Like there's so much in all of her vowels. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I think that's hard to do, and it's also really hard to do in front of a microphone because microphones don't really love the whole thing. And
Right.
I mean, I say that you can totally agree, disagree, but
Thank you.
yeah,
editors.
there's another word that she said that was just awesome. Where is my? If I think I'll look for it in my notes and then I'll tell you. But oh,
That's
she
cool
said
that-
my favorite word ever, which is "see to your remaining tasks."
Tasks.
It's so smooth.
She's definitely ASMR coded for sure. Like in another universe, she like Nala Se is like making a killing on YouTube, just doing like
Right.
various administrative sentences in an ASMR way. She was because so did she leave that data pad specifically for her today for that to escape, or has that data pad always been there?
It's always been there, I think.
It's always been there. Xanthe, you just turned into a robot for me. I don't know if that's
Oh no.
okay. No, now you're fine.
No.
Okay.
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 It's always been.
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
so it's always been
but
there
in
for the
sense-
grabbing,
Oh,
No, I
oh,
don't
you
think
mean she
exactly-
probably left it in the room?
like that day, right? Specifically so that she could get it, right? It hasn't just been there. Like a thing that is able to unlock everything in the facility hasn't just been sitting in front of Omega's face every day for the last year or whatever she's been there, right? Like, because otherwise, like, it's like Omega. Like,
There were a few security things that happened where I was like, that seems a little bit low secure. I don't really believe the low security of this. Like, for example, when it's like, Omega, just take your own sample back to the thing. Like, really, they're not
Right.
like someone's not personally like overseeing. But then I guess they didn't know that I guess they thought her
Right.
blood was useless. But yeah, what do you think, Christina?
Yeah, I mean, I think they use data pads in that facility similar to how Imperial officers use those little
Yeah.
tube things
Code cylinders,
that let you in places. Data cylinders. It's kind of the same concept. So you keep your data pad with you, and when you go to the lab and your Nalase, you then put your data pad in, and that tells the lab, okay, the permissions are all included. Like the key has been
Gotcha.
accessed. Just kind of like how like the droid in the Lorca kennels has a data pad, and when he wants something to happen, he like puts it in the correct receptacle to activate that machine. I think that's how it works, or at least that's what I noticed.
It reminds me kind of like
So
putting
she
the
probably carries it with
hotel
her all
room.
the time.
Yeah, the hotel room
like a
key, and then
hotel
all the
room
lights
pass.
can turn on. Yeah, that's true.
And
That's
the
cool.
only reason that
Um,
she was able to leave it in the lab for Omega was because she was kind of like Hemlock's +1 for the Emperor visit. And there was
right.
really no need for her to have her data pad because Hemlock is definitely going to be the one doing all the stuff for the
Mm-hmm.
Emperor. So,
So, speaking of episode 3, I have a tell me where this percussion thing happened.
All right.
Okay. Here we go. Okay. So that's just the snare drum by itself. There's actually this
Okay.
cool thing that happens underneath it, too. It's like this interesting way of, like, orchestrating the percussion section here. Which is interesting, because a lot of times when you hear these types of marching themes, you don't get like syncopation all the time. Like maybe in a different version, they might this like the kick drum wouldn't be as syncopated as that. It might be like this,
Ah, I see.
you know. But instead, the kick drum underneath is subtle, but it adds kind of a jagged nature to the groove of what's happening. We'll talk about what section that is, but it goes like this. Cool. So you can hear how it feels like you're like, oh, we're moving forward with the syncopation. Can anyone tell me where that happens?
Is it? Are the instruments that you played pretty close to what they were?
Pretty much, yeah.
and were they
mean-
the only thing going on, or was there also like other instrumental stuff in addition, like maybe some strings?
They were pretty bare. There might be like
I
a
have two
drone or
guesses.
something. We're talking about episode 3 here.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think if it's would it be toward the
So
beginning.
when they escape, when Omega and Crosshair get out,
Say that again, Justin.
when Omega and Crosshair get when she gets Crosshair out, right?
So yes.
it,
do you
like
do you
like honing in on what you're saying, is it 8 minutes in when Omega's like running and like decides to start running down the hallway to get
Pretty
Crosshair?
much.
Like she's by herself in the hallway. Yeah,
Nice.
Pretty
8 minutes
much.
in.
It's basically a little bit after that actually. It's like probably let's see. It's specifically when Crosshair is distracting and talking to the guy through the cage and being like, "I'm
Gods.
your
Superior.
You're superior,"
God.
which he is, right? Is
Gods!
it right?
Gods.
I had to say that.
And then in between those sections is this other cool groove happening. Like it kind of goes back and forth between this particular groove, and then it's got like something that sounds a lot like a kabasa shaker, but with some kick drum underneath, like. And then it goes. Dun, 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 dun. So grooves all around.
Man,
Sunday,
that's a good one.
Do you think
It's a good.
Do you think that same groove could have been repeated? So the other time I was going to guess was like 1750. There was like a part where I felt like the strings were doing a really cool pizzicato kind of thing.
Let's hear.
And then
Oh.
at the same time, there were some cool drums going on.
Yeah, that drum part is on the kick drum. It's all kind of a similar tempo, but that part is like. Kind of this clicky kick drum thing going on underneath.
And you're saying that one is at 17 something?
Something like 1750. That's when they're running through the forest, right?
Ah.
So yeah, some cool little drum stuff going on, setting the. I will say, I'm usually more excited when they pick things that are not in 4/4. when there's exciting things happening. But oftentimes when things are in 4/4 or outside of a 4/4 time, there's usually I don't know. It's usually when there's conflict. Often I see when there's a lot, like a fight scene might be in an odd time signature I've seen in Bad Batch specifically. But when they're on the run, we keep it in 4 because they're running. It's almost like there's not really much conflict as much as there's just escape, if that makes sense, right? So maybe we don't want to draw too much attention to the jagged nature of the rhythm. We just kind of want it driving forward, right? That's one way to think about it. But yeah, a lot of 4/4 stuff going on in these 3 episodes. I was trying to listen for some odd meters, but didn't hear a whole lot of it.
Yeah, I think sometimes the odd meter doesn't carry how I think that they think it's going to carry.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind.
Hip, Xanthi. I think that's what it is. We're just too
so.
cool.
Yeah.
I think we're
just
the
too
only
used
people
to it.
that notice.
Yeah. I think they didn't write that for Greeks, Xanthi.
Oh, right.
I don't think Greeks were their audience. Like, whoa, it's a weird odd meter. You mean you like the thing that I dance to, like every Tuesday,
Good one. James is referring to the fact that Greek and like Balkan folk music has a lot of odd meters, so it's kind of normal. It's more normal in those customs, in those musical traditions.
Right. That's right.
And I'm half Greek, so that's what that is. What string thing are you pointing to, Christina? Where you said there's a cool string thing happening as well?
In 1750, a little bit before that, so at 15 and 16, Palpatine's ship is leaving, and they're like, okay, we're gonna follow Palpatine's ship. And then at 1730, the klaxon starts. So they're like, oh, the troops are like coming to get us. And then 20 seconds later, there's like a nice percussive string part where it's just like using, like it was using string pits as percussion is how I took it. But maybe that technique is like, maybe I'm not 100% I'm using the right words for that.
Are you talking about the high-pitched one or the low-pitched one?
Well, there was a nice crisp high string pitch, and then there was also a really nice low string marching. I felt like that the low strings are more doing like a march, and the high strings are doing more of a kind of like electronic music hits.
Okay, because I was hearing like a descending type of thing. Is that what you mean? And then like a fasting.
Yeah, it's like the McDonald's.
And maybe what is the thing where you bounce the bow on the strings?
Like it depends. Like that.
What is that called?
Spiccato. It depends. There's like
Yeah, I guess.
But I think
Okay.
that did sound more
That
like
would be
Pits
Pits.
Cut.
Yeah, I think
Whatever.
it was Pits.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the McDonald's Filet-O-Fish theme. So.
What?
Give me that Filet-O-Fish. I want that fish. Remember that commercial?
No.
No.
There's a song just for
But I
one.
like the play of fish.
Okay. Anyway.
Whenever I hear chromatic descending lines, I think about that Filet-O-Fish.
Oh my god.
Oh dear.
I'm so
I'm
sorry.
Also,
Wait, Ark Von
continuing
said-
on that same moment though.
Mhm.
So like right after that, the monster appears, like the Sasquatch type thing,
Okay.
and the Lorcas
was a
like
bear.
get it and actually end up saving Omega and Crosshair instead of getting Omega and Crosshair. But then there's a nice, like, I feel like the music buildup was pretty good there. Like it started with that percussive kind of vibe that we were just talking about, and then at 1915, the reprisal of the confinement thing comes back in, where Emery is testing Omega's sample, and this is kind of that building climactic moment of like, oh, okay, the sample got tested. She's about to, it's like a bad thing mixed with a good thing because, of course, she ended up saving Crosshair and Omega with the sample, but dooming them because Hemlock is now using the full resources of the Empire to find them, which is always bad for everyone.
Yes. And I feel like that was the first time I saw like Hemlock look really actually kind of defeated. Like he picked it up quickly, but he did look like, oh, damn, they got me.
Yeah, that really is his fault. I don't know why he wouldn't personally test Omega after taking all the effort to get her and knowing
Right.
that she's some sort of seminal special clone. That makes no sense to me. Why
Right.
he wouldn't personally take
Right.
that.
Oh, that's it. Maybe that's him like realizing his mistake. I wanted to add earlier when we were talking about his voice and Nala Se's voice.
Oh yeah, let's get back to
Was-
that because there's more comments.
I thought it was really interesting both how calm but how much emotion and like energy their voices can carry, especially with Nala Se just being like trying to act so calm but seeming so urgently like shit's about to hit the fan kind of a thing that I can't like react to any of this. And then Hemlock being so confident all the time and so dark. I like at that moment when he realizes I messed up, all the messed up, he just has this moment of like a minor setback. It's just the way he says it though, where he has to like almost like show this air of like this is nothing, but on the inside he's just raging, absolutely raging, and how calm he can do that with his voice is just like that's
Why
what's
he's so
terrifying for me
scary.
with him.
Yeah.
That's why he's so terrifying. It's not just the calmness and the monotonous of it. It's the like how can,
Well, yeah,
how-
it's because
how-
there's
it-
all this
he
inner
sounds
world,
like
and
he's
then there's
restraining himself. Like he's truly restraining himself.
The cutting room floor
raging at
says
everybody.
some people were complaining that Nala Se's voice went from slow to frustratingly slow this season. For the record, I was cool with it.
I feel like she's defeated. If we needed to have an explanation for that, she's been captured and she's depressed, and you know, I can imagine it's just like what is. You know, I can only imagine what's going on and what would cause her to be even slower.
I also think that her cadence is such that you almost can't, like, unless you pay attention to her words, you can't tell how she's feeling about something because she sounds like her speech doesn't follow the same
She's got a
like patterns as most other people.
she's got a good poker face, you know.
Yeah, so she could be like, "You're in danger. You have to you have to leave," or whatever, or or something kind of the opposite. And I just want to point out that it is a gift to point. It feels like a treat to point out the one character that is speaking very slowly, as opposed to like in Ahsoka when everyone spoke very slowly.
Oh yeah. I'm
If
convinced
ever.
Ahsoka, everyone was getting their lines fed to them, and then they were repeating what they
Yeah.
were hearing on live while recording.
Yeah.
But that's a different podcast. What was really cool, also with again sticking with this Nala Se thing just for a second, that scene in particular. I was gonna do this as a guess the scene, but we're talking about the scene. It worked out. That scene in particular, where she's like. Everything like they're gonna find Omega. Everything I've been working for is about to fail right now, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. And she like kind of goes like, "Go get the data pad," blah blah blah, and you feel that tension in her voice. Also, sound effect note: Dr. Emery didn't hear Omega take the thing. You had to like press like 5 buttons and kind of a thing. More on the buttons.
And then it, like,
yeah,
nothing
more on the
happened.
buttons later. I have a whole thing about the buttons. They're great. But underneath that whole scene was so cool. Was this like? Did you hear this?
Yeah.
They went for the heartbeat trick, right? Like let's get the heartbeat.
And then they
underneath.
changed it.
It slowly. Start add this. I mean, they probably typed it out, but they just kind of slowly start adding this delay to it, so it gets that. And the tone changes a little. I can kind of hear them doing this like. As it gets more and more intense, it kind of the heartbeat opens up, and we get more of the beating sound and less of the kind of a sound to it. But that's like It was both a really effective and like, I say this with all the love in the world, cheap way to like get us to like feel this emotion through this character who's generally emotionless, and for like once showing as much emotion as we've probably have ever seen from any of the Kaminoans
Yeah.
at all, kind of a thing. And they underscored that with, they had the ticking music, they had some stuff, but then the heartbeat again going with the time, everything's ramping up, here it goes, and then they kind of turned that kick drum, that heartbeat kick drum, into the next scene, um, with a little something else. It's this driving music as Omega is gonna go take the data pad and stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting route to. Well, it's interesting too. How do you all feel about like adding such a naturally something that is as organic as a heartbeat, which could be in a weird way like a sound effect of of a real thing happening in there, and crossing that with the music like this, because that was like very clearly to me, this is a heartbeat, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
how at what point does it take it out? Do you have to like see the heart beating in the chest for you to be like, oh, this is the sound of the heart, versus oh, they're using a heartbeat sound, or they're just mimicking a heartbeat. You know, I these things like throw me off sometimes, and it's not in a bad way. It's just kind of like, oh, you made a heartbeat to music kind of a thing, which is, I'm just curious if anybody has any other differing opinions on that, or we don't care.
I was just having a conversation with someone yesterday about the universality of music, I guess, and the universality of
Mm-hmm.
sound and how it's not really. But heartbeats occur. It occurs to me that heartbeat sound, it can be pretty effective immediately. I feel like it's very rare for me to be like, oh, they were going for a heartbeat, but I didn't know. Or like I feel like it's one of those things that most humans probably do immediately recognize, like, oh, this is a heartbeat sound, without any need for a visual connection if it's done at least
Mm-hmm.
remotely well. It could even be done badly. Like, sorry, I got very jiggy when I did
Right,
that.
and we could have heard dun 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 as it like slowly zooms in, and that's like, okay, this is
Yeah.
clearly like sound design now. I guess it's like a really interesting blur between just straight up fully sound design for the situation to get us into that like panic set, and like just using it purely musically. Um,
Yeah, I feel like it's the type of thing where often the audience or listeners feel it before they consciously attribute it to
mm-hmm.
something. And I think another example of that might be like Christina, you know, that Wild Up concert that we went to, the one with the O'Day and Nini, Patrick
Hmm.
Shirioshi, Booker Stardrum one, where at the end of the like hour long improv, it like ended with something like there's music coming from the speakers, but like it did kind of sound like it sounded kind of like a breath, I was realizing, but like I wasn't sure if it didn't occur to me until the end that I was like, oh, maybe it was like trying to get us to like breathe slower, and maybe it was intentionally supposed to sound like a breath, but I couldn't really tell as it was just unfolding, but it did, like I did feel myself like relaxing and like kind of my heart rate slowing down and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say like it feels like it's a subconscious like cue for the audience almost, right? It's kind of like it's leading your heartbeat. It's kind of manipulating your anxiety, like saying, "Hey, audience members, start feeling anxious and start ramping up because things are about to get real right now." You know, so you could read it as sound design for the characters, but you could also take it as an emotional and just like, what's the word? I guess emotional is the best word for it, but just like a cue for the audience, like start getting nervous, you know. And I have to say, like when I watch these shows, like I've said this a million times, it's like I don't even consciously listen to the music unless it's something that really sticks out, like like this theme obviously stuck out for me, confinement theme, but other than that, like I really don't even notice them, like really specifically consciously notice what's happening musically until a second watch. So I'm sure that a scene like this, I probably didn't even realize, hey, I'm getting more anxious and I don't know why. and the reason is that it's something that's telling my heartbeat to start speeding up or start beating or start, you know. So
Yeah, and I think like the electronic kick drum sound does it it's easy to use that to great effect. It,
Right.
can it sound and right after the Nalase scene, actually they I think they do it more pointedly, more obviously, where they're blending it because at 340 is when we hear slow, ba-bum, ba-bum for Omega.
Right. It literally leads into, it goes from this heartbeat to this delay kick drum thing into this like more like boom, 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 boom. Kind of almost like a beat. You can almost be like, okay, I'm waiting for this rhythm to kind of drop here for a moment. But they do it more like melodically, rhythmically than like here's your 4 to the floor kind of a thing. They
For
just kind of
sure.
imply that kind of groove. Groove is a better word, I guess, to use here.
Yeah. Cutting room floor, the impression I got was that people in that facility seemed like they were being drugged. This is related to Nalase's voice. And I agree too, because I feel like that's, like, I don't understand Emery because and but I also feel like she seems drugged as well.
Yeah.
Or because
There's
she's
something
also,
in those.
yeah.
There's something in those chicken nuggets that they're eating, that they're feeding them. I mean, let's be real, guys. Those were definitely chicken nuggets, right? Like that's clear
Absolutely.
what those were.
I thought they were McDonald's
Those were
hash
chicken and
browns.
vegetable mix, I think. They're like
Did you see bits of
chicorn.
green? Like I get it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then Jeannie says Nalase's voice sounded a bit raspier than normal. She sounds really worn out to me. Yeah, I think just just acknowledging that she's like depressed is
Also, hanging out in Project Necromancer can't be healthy. That just has to be dark.
No.
Like you
Dude, how-
can't be.
Dude, I
hang
also
out
love
there and be
that
fine.
the red glow is clearly aesthetic. Like I love it. It's just like everything
It's
in
so
this
good.
facility is like bluish and black, and then they're like, I'm sure Sidious was just like, you gotta
need
make this room
deer.
red. It's
Make
gotta
it
be
red.
in here. Red and evil. Similarly, I saw a funny comment on the internet, and I'm gonna paste it into the chat here. But it's basically, who is this unexpected guest? Well, judging from the ominous choir we can all hear, it's clearly the Emperor, and like very clear. How do we feel about just using his theme, just like as is? As
I
we
feel good about
expect
it. Yeah.
That's
Feel
right.
good, right?
I don't think we heard it as expected. Well, first we hear like it's like cloaked in a. It's cloaked in a. They've added other choir stuff to it, and then they'll drop it in. But I think it's interesting that we hear we heard the back half of it before the front half.
That is true. Yeah, we heard what I love to call the Palpa theme, and it's it's one of my favorite Star Wars themes since like the early. There's a whole episode where Xanth and I get into this whole
Yep.
conspiracy theory that I had about this music.
Mm-hmm.
The Palpa theme comes in,
Palpa
which is
theme,
interesting
the
because I
Palpa
feel like
theme.
what you were calling the ominous clone or the
Ominous
da,
choir?
da, 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 da.
Oh, the
that
clone.
kept appearing when
Oh.
yeah that kept appearing when Hemlock was around, so I
Yes.
kind of associated it with him. But was also interesting was because it had this like little behind it a little bit, which kind of gives me the Palpatine vibes, kind of a vibe thing. So I don't know, it kind of to me felt more like he's in such close association with Palpatine, and they share this weird twisted vision, so we're going to give them similar themes, kind of a thing, which blended so well with the Palpa theme.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just such a great presence to be able to hear that together.
Yeah, I agree.
Also the Project Necromancer's door is a fantastic sound design moment where they're walking into all this ambience and you just feel the electricity in the room, like literally
Yeah, that
hear
was
this
cool.
like buzzing electricity. And in the first time they dropped the big drop synths, the kind of like low synthesizer things that are so great to like get that big ominous doom sound, and doom reaction out of things. But the sound design of like the multiple lasers. What is with this Star Wars and multiple lasers thing? like when they're like escaping out of the Lurka Hound thing, I was like, do you think one ray shield would have been enough did they need like 25 in a row to go off on a timed thing? I feel like one would have been just fine. Maybe two, just in case. But or just at the entrance of it. Like, why did it have to? Anyways, so like these lasers, like extra security as it goes through, because who's going through there except for like 3 different people. But the energy is what I'm trying to get at. That absolute atmosphere. It wasn't dark, right? It wasn't low. That was what was interesting. It was very like crackly.
Correctly.
And that not just the lasers, but the soundscape that they put with it was like very like crumbly and crackly, to kind of allow these like low tones to come through. It was kind of the highlight of the sound design moments within all these 3 episodes, except for the plant creature.
Oh, I
episode
love the
2.
play. Okay, wait, but on
You
the
ever notice? Okay, well, with that, you ever notice with actually, go ahead because
Okay.
I was
Okay, so just continuing on the Palpatine, on the Palpa theme, and the sort of
Trademark.
dark sounding themes. I'll remind everyone of a few other clone facility / conspiracy types of themes that we have. So thank goodness I have notes from last season. So first of all, there's the. Let me just. Regular piano. Right. And we definitely did hear this.
Is that a Blink-182 song?
Well, okay. I'll chuckle at James sometimes. And then we have Clone Conspiracy. These are things to keep looking out for. This is like the Chuchi episodes.
That would be like. It'd be like. That's what the Blink-182 version of that would be.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Is that your handwriting, Xanthi?
Yeah.
Can you show that again?
What? You were acting like this is the first time you've seen it.
It's just so good.
Oh.
It looks like it's like a font or something.
Oh.
It's so clear.
Right?
It makes
What
me
the
feel
hell?
guilty
Did
about
you-
my handwriting.
You write. Is that on an iPad? That you
Yeah.
wrote that? Okay. Wow. God, I'm so jealous of people with good handwriting. My handwriting is so awful. It's like so awful. And I teach. That's the fun thing is I have to write on a board like a lot.
Oh, I'm
and
so
all my
sorry.
students, they're always just like, can you rewrite that please? That looks awful.
I know that feeling, James. You don't know how bad your handwriting is until you try to write on a board in front of students,
Right.
and you're like,
Right?
yeah, I can't even read this either. This is terrible.
Your handwriting like legitimately looks like a font, like a script font or something, doesn't it? It's
we
like
should
crazy.
font your handwriting.
It does, but I'm gonna put a critique on the of something. That's not.
The font's great. Your kerning is terrible, but the rest is the letters.
Arc
are great.
fonts, chime in, please. Ender? No, actually
That's right.
don't.
We have like a font person in the audience.
Oh, wait, and then there's this other one. I'll do it high. So are these themes all related, or they all just kind of use the same few intervals and stuff? Oh, Ken, thank you. I don't think I've ever said this on stream. Maybe I should hit that like
comment,
button.
and subscribe. Yeah, you need to be more shameless, Xanthi, I think.
Smash that subscribe button. Hear that bell.
That's right.
Oh God. No, I don't.
I like
can't
the video.
I can't co-sign the bell thing. That sounds just annoying. Don't do that.
Here's how it works, y'all. We will only continue to stream
Stop.
every week if Xanthi gets 650 subscribers by next week. If they do not get that by next week, we will not do it. So you need to subscribe and tell your friends. Okay.
Tell all of your friends.
Wait, how many subscribers currently do we have?
638. So if we can get 12 more
need
subscribers, we need 12, or else we're not coming back. So sorry.
I mean, look what happened last time. We didn't come back for four
yeah,
shows.
and it was because
so.
of you guys. It was not because of the strikes.
It was all because
Blame it on you.
It
Loving
was
fans.
because of subscribers.
Looks like I have an admirer of my handwriting.
Aw. Yeah. How good is it? It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we have talked about the dark stuff. But when I say the back half of the theme, I don't remember what key we were hearing the Palpa theme in when it came in. D.
Is that the Harry Potter theme?
Oh, yeah, kind of. One of those notes. What is key?
Well, we
What
hear
are
the
notes?
yeah, it doesn't matter. So we hear the
Right.
before we heard the interesting choice. I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the bad guy sounding music. I will say that like there was also a little bit of fun, evil sounding. I don't know, bad guys. I wrote my notes literally just say bad guy sounding stuff in the Durand house when Lady Durand's like, "You are guilty of conspiracy against this family," and we have another fun little cello thing. Yeah. Okay.
Shout out in that particular scene. Shout out to the great footstep sound of them going on the laser platform.
Oh my God! Yes.
It was such a great. I tried to recreate it, Dad. If you're watching, I know you requested that sound. I couldn't do it. I was defeated in the amount of time that I had. I tried like 3 times, and I was like, you know what? No, I don't have the right things for this. But that sound was like fantastic. And every step was different, which was weird. Anyways, that's me listening to it like over and over and over again, trying to like recreate it. If I could recreate it, the only thing I could think of it in my head was when it sounded like, okay, so you know how to get the Star Wars laser sound, the original blaster sound is you hit like a wire,
Telephone wire.
you hit that thing. So it felt like that pitched down with a really crazy wobbly filter on it, so you get this wobble. You know, it's hard to describe. I can't. It's that's what it felt like to me. That sound. People go back. It's at very
50
beginning of
seconds,
this
right?
episode. Like literally like 50 seconds, and
Yeah.
they step on it. It was a really cool sound.
In episode 302. Oh, it's really good. Yeah, I really loved that sound. Okay. So, if just one more thing in episode 2, which Justin, you were alluding to before. Oh, I love the chittering, like vinelets.
The vinelets.
They're like running
The
away.
vinelets.
Like,
With the subtitles on, I wrote down all the words that were used to describe their sounds, which
I
were
did too.
gurgle, warble, and growl.
Warbling.
They're like,
That's
"Vines
right. They
gurgle,
did the
vines."
slither vines slither warbled. They warbled.
Is that the Rice
It's
Krispies
Slither
guys?
Warble.
Is that
Slither crispy and-
gurgle, wobble, and growl?
God.
And growl.
Creature sound design
What
is
did-
so fantastic because I'm imagining in 2 different scenarios is that one, you do the Jurassic Park thing, which was brilliant, where you go around and get as many animals as you can and then map those animal sounds to a MIDI keyboard and then just play the sounds in kind of a thing to like a Foley artist, or it's somebody in a room in a microphone going, okay, that's good. Okay, the next one, please. Roar. Okay, good. Can you go deep? Okay, got it. Okay, and now it's happy. Okay, got it. You know, there are people that do this, like creature sounds, which is so fun to like. It's like watching Pokemon. Sometimes you know someone's behind there going, Pika! And you're like, someone is coming up with all of these sounds for every one of these Pokemons. And hearing them in like all these Star Wars shows is really interesting. And like the variety and non-variety. I feel like
That's good. Yeah.
a lot of sounds have what I call the cackle or the whinny. forgive me, everybody, for the weird sounds I'm about to make. They do like the see, I can't do it now that we're here. The kind of a thing, right? It's like this deep kind of like gurgle sound deep in the throat. Yeah. It's like laughing without like like this kind of like without doing it, but without using your vocal cords. It's all throat. Like you're trying to pretend you're a kick drum. Right?
This is fun.
But like really, really fast. That's like a classic one, and then there's like the squealing. You know, they always gotta like, how are these vines squealing? Like I wanna know where are they getting like the slither, sure, but like
Xanthe, I don't know if you want to show this quick. It's like a 10-second video, real quick on stream.
I don't know if it'll let me. It might take down the stream immediately if copyright doesn't like it.
It's not a. I don't know if that would happen.
Yeah,
I don't know.
me neither.
It's not like a musical overlay, so you shouldn't get claimed because it's not like it's not an actual track. It's just a video.
Okay. I could try.
You should be okay.
Incoming. Someone else say something.
So this
I drew a picture of the monster. I can show you.
I called it the swamp sarlacc.
Right, it did have.
It reminded me of the sarlacc.
It's like a Dianoga mixed with a sarlacc, and
And I think it's got some strong.
Yeah, that.
Sorry, I don't have control over this right now. I don't know. I can't stop it.
Yeah, that was good.
That is one of the many jobs I want in my life. It's just to do that. It's so good.
yeah, I think what you would describe what we just did was transformative, since we're offering commentary and reactionary content. So I think. Look,
I feel justified in using it, but just sometimes if you're streaming, rather than uploading a video, it doesn't even let you. It just takes you down immediately.
I think that happens when it's like a movie, like an actual movie, or when it's an actual piece of recorded music.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think like a video without music is pretty okay.
Yeah, that's usually fine. But then without having watched it, I don't know if that's been on some special behind the scenes documentary or something. But anyway, I think we're still live, right? Let us know if we're
Looks like
here.
it. I'm watching it.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Still good.
Great.
So yeah, I feel like it was I feel like someone was doing that for the Lurka Hounds, and I feel like that Swamp Sarlacc was more combinations of different actual animal sounds. I could be very wrong, but like that's what it felt like to me. Like Batcher in particular, that was clearly somebody doing these reactions, like mimicking that out. Where I feel like the vines, the slither vines, and the vine runners, I think they called it in the subtitles. They screeched and they also warbled. Mm-hmm. And
I thought they were going to be the Drangir at first, I have to say.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they could be derived from the Drangir, actually. I think that easily that could be like what's going on is like the Empire got hold of some Drangir cells and
maybe,
crossed it with something.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, okay. I feel like, someone said something about some band earlier, and I just want to know if anyone got it, so I want to put it on screen. Oh, the drum beat earlier that you were, that we were talking about. The Cutting Room Floor says the beat sounds like Sunday Bloody Sunday. Are you all looking it up?
By you two.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
Interesting.
James is listening to it right now. I can hear through his headphone bleed. Wait, James, turn it down. I don't want, just in case.
Okay. You claimed through my headphones. That's hilarious.
Look, try running a YouTube channel. The weirdest stuff happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that song well enough to be able to say for sure if that. That's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I want to come back to this overall comment about the music in this season feels the most aligned to the storyboards compared with past series and seasons. I think that's a really, that's an interesting point. and I would like to see how the rest of the season plays out. I think one thing that is making me look more favorably upon this season is knowing that it is the final season. So I feel like I'm taking it more seriously and like
For
taking the
sure.
plot more seriously. And like the Kiners also did Ahsoka, which we didn't talk about, but I think that show I thought there was actually a lot of really excellent music in that show. However, I did not always think it aligned with storyboards, or sometimes the story wasn't for me good enough for the music. It still didn't overall come
the
off
mus-
good enough.
the-
Even though the
yeah,
music
the music
itself was
really
pretty good.
outshone. Like the music was carrying the emotional tone of that show.
Yeah.
And then there were times where the emotional tone wasn't coming through, and not even the music could help it, and it was just frustrating
Right.
to like see that disconnect, experience it. So
I
I would much rather have a match than to have like one part of it really good and the other part really not.
So, y'all, I'm running to a rehearsal, so I'm gonna see you guys next week. Okay.
Cool.
Go Bad Batch.
Go Band Batch. Well,
James.
we're gonna continue.
Band.
We're
Yeah.
probably almost done though. See you next week, James.
But see you next week.
See you next
Bye,
week,
James.
James.
Okay,
There
so
was
now
a
that
good. Oh, sorry.
so now that James is gone, I just
Okay.
I want
Well,
to I want to
I'll-
bring
no,
up one more creature that does like kind of a whinnying noise, and it's from the Thrawn Ascendancy audiobooks, and it's the Pakash species. They kind of have a whinnying noise, and it is discussed amongst a couple characters, going like, "What do they sound like?" Oh, they have kind of a whinnying sound, like a pack bull. Yeah, kind of like that. So yeah,
And when they laugh, Mark Thompson kind of does it like. It's hard to do. It's hard to whinny as a non-whinnier.
yeah. Okay.
Um,
Do you have any? Yeah, Christina, go ahead.
I was just gonna connect to like with Ahsoka, there were so many of those scenes where there was just like silence, but there was a really successful use of silence in the end of Paths Unknown, the end of the second episode of Bad Batch, where I thought it was nice at the very end of the episode when they all get back on the ship and Hunter is like on his data pad being really depressed about how he is worried about how he's going to have to search an entire system for Omega, and it's just like kind of a silent moment, and it actually says like you can actually see that there's sound happening in the space because the children and Wrecker are interacting with each other, and but Hunter isn't a part of that. He's experiencing his own kind of like desolate silence thing, separate from the drama that's actually visible on screen. So instead of choosing to do actual sound of what we would actually hear on the ship, they chose to just have silence so that we're kind of caught up in the sadness of and lack of hope that he feels.
Yep, that was notable to me too, and
There was
to
another-
Ender.
There was another moment of silence I'm remembering too in the third episode, because those episode 1 and 3 were so musically driven. There's a moment, if I'm remembering correctly, between Crosshair and Omega, where they're talking, and there's no incessant theme, there's no containment theme, there's no anything, and in all their other conversations there is. And those episodes were pretty wall to wall with music. So that was a pretty notable one, along with what you're mentioning, Christina. That moment was also interesting too, because they're celebrating. Isn't this one they're celebrating at the very end? And you hear the kids celebrating the regs.
Yep.
Exactly.
Right. So we
They're
have
super
that.
happy, but it's a sad moment because of also he probably wishes he had tech. Because
Did you
tech
notice Tech's goggles?
would normally be the one doing this whole looking on the data pad thing.
Oh,
That's
good
not
point,
really-
Christina.
That's not really Hunter's favorite thing to
Yeah.
do, and he's probably
But-
not good at it.
Oh.
Tech is the one who's good at that.
And you see Tech's glasses and goggles off to the side smashed.
Oh, wait, where were they?
In the very beginning of the episode, when they're still trying to figure out where the heck, when we're just getting reintroduced to the characters and what their situation is, he's sitting at that controls, and then there's a moment where it kind of like blurs, like changes focus, and we see Tech's goggles sitting right there, and he's looking at them. He's looking at Omega's doll, and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Subjective, sitting next to where Hunter works on his datapad. Yeah, okay. Subjective sound design is so lovely. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Stomach indigestion.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to point out also the kind of keeping with sound design, but going back to the kind of an episode. I mean, we heard this a million times because I'm going to talk about the confinement theme or the hemlock theme. But I really enjoyed how they made space for the sound design of the hallway to be a really almost like a part of the soundtrack. I feel like I really heard the AZ units whirring, and I heard the protocol droids clinking,
Yeah.
and I heard like the mouse droid rolling around and the data pads clicking. Like they really made space for that to be part of the soundtrack, even in the scenes when it's not something so cool as a centrifuge. It's because in this universe, AZ droids and protocol droids are pretty standard, but we really notice them a lot more because the soundtrack is sparse and leaves space for us to notice them, and there's no dialogue during those moments, which I've really enjoyed. All of this show did a great job of dialogue-less scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really let the sound design
The blocking
talk.
was like much clearer than Ahsoka. Yeah.
What I liked
Totally.
about those scenes too, Christina, were that not just the droids that we could hear, but I'm fascinated with the sounds, the haptic sounds that are in Star Wars, of like when you press a data pad and it like tells you information. It was so musical in these episodes. Did you notice how many?
Like even more than I
it was
remember.
Way more musical than, and what I mean musical in the sense of like everyone was like very different, and each sound had a personality to it. I would also love this job, just to like, I need you to churn out 500 data pad sounds, and by Monday it's like done. Let's do.
I want
this.
that for you, Justin.
I would love that, but it's
I want
interesting
that for
too
you,
because
too.
they really consider. I mean, it's so easy to just add the, that's the standard like weird little one, right? Or just like a boo. But every single different thing had one, and the ones that really stuck out to me were when Nalase was deleting Omega's blood sample. It did a, it just had this like little like this like defeated sound, like you deleted something, and it's like that extra detail that people who make cell phone sounds and all these other sounds like do put into these emotional responses to like the MacBook going every time you make a mistake. You're like, it's like wrong. But the centrifuge was really interesting because every time it was negative, did you hear what it sounded like when it was negative?
I don't remember.
When it was wrong, it would go, almost like saying negative. That's how I heard it every time, like negative, negative. And go to the next one, and then you would hear this. This like
Yeah.
as it's testing, and then
Yep.
finally when it's correct, it's this it's like, aha, hey, ho ho, check this out.
Yeah.
So I'm just imagining people also like, again, in the Star Wars universe as actual beings, like creating these Empire people creating these machines and going, what if it was happy when it found a sample? Let's make it a happy machine, and then this one is an angry sound. Maybe that's just droids giving each other voices. I think that's also cute.
That's interesting.
Anyways, like I want to make a compilation of all the datapad sounds that we find in these shows.
That would be really
Maybe
cool.
Maybe for our final episode, I'll go through and just string together all of the datapad sounds that we hear.
I would 100% pay to go see a show where you were like making music out of all the Star Wars datapad sounds that you thought about. That'd be so cool as a show theme, as a show
Done.
concept.
Done. It's happening now.
Yeah.
It's happening now.
Speaking of both programming and sounds, I think that Emery is not necessarily drugged, but we know that clones can be programmed even on a moment by not a moment by moment basis, but it can be like,
She's
oh, we need to
chipped,
like
probably.
increase her obedience. We need to like decrease her blah blah blah. We need to like increase her feelings of like her need for stability. And I think that Emery
She's
might
very
be
risk averse.
experiencing a lot of yeah, I think and like she only feels good about things if it's like yeah, like she's like she finds a lot of comfort in doing the daily tasks and it seems like she actively finds comfort in those things. And I think that goes into her voice. I think that's why she talks the way she does is like I think it's programming to some extent. And maybe at some point she'll be able to be unprogrammed, just like they were able to remove Order 66 from some of the clones. So
Auric Font says, I feel like she was actually just classically conditioned / brainwashed. And I think that's very possible too. I do think that like, I would be surprised given the setup of her character and how season 2 ended with her basically as the cliffhanger. Like, I'm your sister. I would be surprised if we don't see her break out of that at some point this season. I'm pretty sure that we will. As I was rewatching the end of season 2 last night, I was forgetting that she was like the way that it ended. Do you remember? Like the way season 2 ended was like, I'm your sister. Like, who are you? I'm your sister. And I just remember being like, wait, why is that? I guess it was cool, but then I couldn't think of why that was so important. What do you all think? What do you think it's going to lead to? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I hope that she breaks out. I can see something in her eyes, kind of a glittering that they're adding to the animation in her eyeballs every once in a while, where it's like this idea of like someone who wants to emote but doesn't know how and can't. And actually, I totally forgot about some of these. Yeah, some Emery quotes was like, "All of us serve a purpose here," and until Dr. Hemlock took me under his wing, he saw potential in me. Like he's such a big role in her life, and I kept thinking, I think a really big theme in this is like, what is it like to be under something or under someone who is so dark and so cynical? Because Dr. Hemlock is so cynical. He's just like the Lork has been domesticated. No, they're dying immediately for sure. He has no doubt that
You think
all
that's
sorts of
cynical
bad
though?
things are happening. I think it's cynical. I think it's like he's just immediate like he has a complete aura of repressing any kind of hope and any kind of like Emery doesn't she's just like we're really safe in here. Like I don't know. I think I guess and it reminds me of the end of season 2. We saw Sid kind of being forced to betray the Bad Batch because the Emperor like and she was very sad and I watched those episodes again and I was just like she looks so sad and I feel really bad for her
For
actually like
Sid?
she looks really defeated in these moments like I don't even really feel angry with her almost because what do you do when you're raised that way or you live in that society like
Like
you
she's taking care of
do
herself.
exist within a framework that you don't have control over.
Right. Like forgiving Lando in Empire Strikes Back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you do when
Yeah.
Darth Vader is like do this or I'll kill you right now and everyone that you know and destroy your planet. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, she feels.
And that's a big Star Wars theme.
Yeah.
It's one of the big reasons why it's an interesting, or at least for me, that's one of the reasons I keep coming back is like, what does Star Wars keep saying about how we deal with being a small thing inside something very huge? And while a lot of the really huge things in our world are really good, some of them are really dark, and it can be nice in Star Wars to like use Star Wars helps us explore what that's like
Mm-hmm.
out of the context of reality
Oh, definitely. What were you saying, Justin?
where it's safe.
I was just agreeing with all this and agreeing with what Jeannie's saying. Mega's probably the first person to treat her as a fellow person. And she had a moment of like, it's nice to not be alone, And Emery like probably had never heard something like that before. Never had a companion,
Mm-hmm.
and she's already like, no personal possessions. It's better for you anyways, kind of a thing. Um, I like what Alfie just said. Is Emery a failed Omega precursor? Interesting. I don't know. It could be, could not be, but I can definitely see Emery feeling torn. There's a moment when she captures Crosshair, and like in last season when she's talking to Crosshair, there was moments where I was like, she doesn't feel completely into this. Like she understands but can't. Like, I get where you're coming from. I feel your pain, but I'm sorry, I have to do this. And even with like her running into Crosshair and Omega at the end, going, "Look, I won't tell anybody. Just
Yeah, she
come
keeps
back."
making conciliatory measures, and when she says like you're safer in here, nothing good is going to happen if you escape. Like she genuinely believes that and thinks that that's being protective. Like, and she is probably right. Like they're going to set the hounds on you immediately. We do learn that is what immediately happens. She just is hyper realistic. Yeah. I wonder if Omega and the Bad Batch are going to realize more and more that their squad is not the entirety of their family or community. And having Emery say that I'm your sister is a seed of that. That would be cool.
Yeah, just like how Fee, I think, in a way, is part of their family and the Pabo crowd.
People. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
have we
Maybe Emery
seen Fee
is.
learn that Tech
What was that?
Oh, no.
never came back? Did we ever see Fee learn that Tech came back?
I don't think
Come
we've
back?
seen. I don't think so. Maybe we'll
No.
see that in the next few episodes.
Yeah, like that's a pretty.
How
That's
much
just
time
an
has
interesting
passed?
thing that.
Oh wait, how many more? I didn't count Omega's tick marks.
Good while. At least a couple months.
I think
So
there were
Fee probably
25
has
of them,
heard.
maybe.
He probably knows about tech by now. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but we have not seen the resolution to that. Correct. Yeah.
Maybe Emery is also Andor's long lost sister that we never found and never will find and never get back to that plot. But
We'll see.
it'll be like the last episode of Andor. Like, oh, I'm back. Oh, hey.
It's Emery. Hey, Emery.
It was Emery all along.
Anyway,
Too.
does anyone have any final thoughts about the Bad Batch? I keep wanting to say Band Batch. Ugh.
I keep calling it Band
I always
Batch.
call it. I pretty much always call it Band Batch too.
It's such a great group name.
I have a few thoughts.
No.
Yes, please
I
share.
feel like, yeah.
So one of them is about the confinement theme and its arc over the set of the 2 episodes. It starts out very slow and very legato, very the starts and ends of each note are very smooth, and increasingly becomes less legato as the time goes on. Not 100%, but in general, it does just become a little bit more attack. What do you think, Justin? Yeah.
No, that exactly. Yeah, I noticed
Yeah.
that too.
So
There's times
legato,
when it's very,
connected.
and then you take the attack, the decay down. And that there's still some reverberance
space
in the back,
between
but everyone's like
notes.
very like pointed,
Clipped.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
goes
it's
from something that's innocuous to something clipped and pointed and dangerous. That's a
and
good
it's
way
cool how
to.
they stretch it too, back and forth. Like Xanthe, you mentioned earlier on in our conversation about this theme, how good it is to like layer whatever the heck you want, and it's also good to transform it into whatever you want, because there's a moment at the end. I realized I did have this note of the first episode where she's sitting there sad. Um, the doll scene where she's piecing together the final pieces of her doll. There's a big musical moment that happens there. It comes out of this theme. It goes into this like I think it's got because that theme is this this A minor.
Yeah.
Right, and then we get this kind of like so many Andor things that are popping out to me.
Yeah.
The warble.
Yep.
Right, so you get this moment with
Mm-hmm.
and that gets into the theme. We get this descending and it like gets all of a sudden we hear the Bad Batch, like almost the Bad Batch theme, almost like it, but it's that triumphant, remembering my brothers, remembering the good days.
Yeah.
Moment, and that was like the one part of that episode, in episode 1, that like the music changed, like really changed. You know, like it was no longer this
Do you have a
spacey
timestamp?
ambience. It is yes. Well, I can find a timestamp. This is episode 1. This is at the end where she's with her doll.
In like 15
During the
50
surprise
and
inspection,
60, she's
or before
doing
that?
the dolls.
Before that.
Oh, before 17, because the Tuca doll is before 17. So it's around this, somewhere in 16.
1620 is when the big themes start to come in, but the moment I talk about is like at 16.
Mm.
It starts there.
That's when the faucet drip starts.
Right, and she's etching her days in, and we get this.
Yeah. And it's Omega's theme.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden the orchestra just like swoops and sweeps in, and it gets all triumphant and emotional for a moment there. But that was like the one big tonal shift of that whole episode, I felt, as a great transformation of what this theme has been evolving to. It's been Omega all along. It's been Omega.
Wait. Was that not?
I'm kidding.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
and then
just
that
fits so
same
well.
moment continues really nicely to there's kind of a momentum building ostinato that happens kind of at like 18
Mm-hmm.
where it's like
Yeah, that's where the violin arpeggios come in, and that's where it starts sounding like Nils Fromm.
Yeah.
and then it kind of like culminates, I think, in like we hear like, and then we go to the Lorcas barking and things like that, and then
And the music continues
and then
to
at
be cool.
1940 I noted there was like a really nice, eerie and unsettling continuous pitch slide that was using an augmented fourth, like a tritone, I think was what it was, which I don't know if that's what I just said.
Do you mean like parallel?
Just that the span of the interval was a tritone.
And it was sliding together?
Yeah, or I mean, like it was just a note.
Oh, it was sliding to a tritone away.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, not parallel. Just one line going up a tritone
Yeah, I
and
see
then
what you're
back
saying.
down. It was really nice.
So like, was it high?
It was low.
No. Lower? Oh.
Speaking tone, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, it's doing a few different slides. That first one
Yeah,
felt
it's
like a much
definitely
bigger interval. It was only a third. That first one.
Yeah, maybe it is just third. Yeah.
But it's really dragged out, so it actually feels like quite a big distance. It's a very effective slide there, I would say. Yeah.
It was really good. And that whole scene is bookended by the drips.
That motif of the drips.
Drip, drip, drip.
Really effective.
Goes the
Oh,
water.
and then a little later on, Nala says, "Science."
Yes. Like my commitment to science or whatever. Was it that line?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. I liked that line a lot. Yeah.
And then the episode ends with Bachelor howling.
Yeah.
Bachelor howling, and
Cute.
the music had like this like weird flute horn tubular sound, like someone like buzzing into like a long horn tube kind of a thing, to kind of represent wilderness. I feel like it was like this like
Because, that's what
jungle
wilderness sounds
animal,
like.
right? That's what I mean, like jungle animal theme kind of a thing. Like also with the roar. You also hear that sound, I think, earlier on when Bachelor is still in its cage. That same sound.
Totally.
Oh, the Lurkas.
There was
Okay.
an
Any more notes? Chat? Any more things? Questions? Things you like?
I wanted to bring up one moment. Oh yeah, in episode 3, about 20 minutes in, i.e. 20 minutes from the end of the episode, there were some cool bells that really reminded me of the Andor bells.
So you mean 20 minutes from the end of the episode?
No, I mean like at 20.
Okay.
When I think this is like when the ship is landing, the ship of clones that are going to attack them, or the ship of TK people.
And
There
it
were some nice Andor bells.
Oh. In what way were they Andor-y?
Similar to the bell tower. I thought they were similar. They remind the soundtrack has a bell tower sound, I think.
Oh, okay. This was after Plan 72.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's like where it's also blend. It almost sounds like it. You can't tell if it's diegetic or non-diegetic. It also sounds PVC pipey or something. It's kind of to a beat. It's like boom,
Yeah,
boom,
you're
and there's like a
right. It is
bwom
to the
underneath. Bwom.
The classic
Yeah, like
blom.
spacious.
It has that kind of mechanical sound to it, even if it's like sounding like you're hitting an anvil, kind of a thing. It just shows. It feels like
like
the
processed.
the mechanics. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like doom, 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 boom, boom, doom, doom. Although I think it would be rather hilarious if like an Imperial facility had just like some person hitting, like their system is just some person who plays an instrument. Of all people to have that. No, we need a live player for the alarm system, actually. Sounds very on brand for the Empire. Oh, I did hear some hints of Dies Irae
Oh,
Where?
a few times.
nice.
So one of them was at 2317.
In episode 3?
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
It's super tenuous, like it might not be a thing, but to me,
Now,
just picked up on it.
is it Dies Irae or is it Carol of the Bells that you're hearing? Two very, very different music, Andy.
Yeah. I'm going to call this one Dies Irae.
It makes me so angry sometimes that the Dies Irae is it's much longer, like most things that we associate things with, like the whole Gregorian chant. But like it's those first 4 notes that if anybody ever uses that combination of notes in that order, it's the Dies. You clearly took from the Dies Irae theme. It's like, no, there is more to that theme.
Of
than
course,
those
of course,
4
of course.
notes. I know. I'm just. It's me. It's my same reaction to like hi-hats and in some types of electronic music, like trap, for example, uses these very fast, high complex hi-hats across very slower beats. And I've gotten comments from students when I do something like that. They're like, "Wow, those are great trap hi-hats." I'm like, no, they're not just for
They're
trap.
not just using trap.
They're not just hi-hats are used everywhere.
Oh goodness, that's pretty funny.
That's great.
Well, if anyone wants to know more about, I agree with you, Justin. The Dies Irae thing, it like used to bother me a lot more actually, but then plug for this channel. I did an episode with Alex Ludwig, who is like his subject of musical expertise is the Dies Irae, and so we did an episode about how to diagnose a Dies Irae, the different types that he uses. And I did ask all those questions, Justin, about like, but what, why, how do you do it's so subjective? Couldn't it be anything? So go listen to that episode
That's a great episode. I do know that episode. That's a great episode.
Thank you.
I do know that one.
Speaking of death, there's a good moment at the end of episode 2 when they throw the grenade into the slither vines and the grenade clickety clicketies along its
Oh,
teeth
it's so good.
on the way
Okay,
in.
hold on. No. Okay, I wasn't gonna bring it up. I wanted to complain about this one.
Oh.
Yeah,
Because
it was
okay, and
interesting.
I know. Okay, so sonically, I loved it. Like the marble falling sound effect. I'm imagining someone rolled it like, across the table, and you got that sound, and it bounces off the teeth. It's so great. But isn't maybe because everything is just so dark in shows these days, or maybe my TV is so dark and you can't make out things unless you set the contrast so unnatural. But the creature was like fleshy, right? It was soft, minus the teeth.
I don't know. The sound
Right?
led me to believe that there was something about
But as it's going down the creature's throat, it's going click, 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 click,
So it must
and
be
you get
hard.
that really gorgeous sound. But I guess that's what bugged me, because to me it looked like a very soft creature, and you wouldn't have heard that. You would have heard the clanging of the teeth, but you wouldn't have heard it going down the throat unless it was like solid rock or metal.
I assumed it was solid metal.
What
The whole
what
creature
if
was
the
solid metal.
creature
No, but that at least that part.
throat.
But
The throat leading in.
no, but that's fascinating, because if I had already known it to be true that it was fleshy and soft, then it would have bothered me. But instead, like I wasn't like visually, I wasn't picking up on it very much, and the sound totally just guided me to make my assumption about what the makeup of the creature was.
Right, so I'm seeing both Auric Fonts and Jeannie, the same idea. So it's like, yes, I see the rows of teeth and it bounces off the rows of teeth, but then it goes down the tunnel, down the throat into its stomach, and that I thought was fleshy. Like you wouldn't
I
have
don't
heard,
think
you
it's
would
a
heard the
fleshy
teeth.
plant or any. It's wooden.
Well, fleshy
Like,
or
it's like-
soft.
It's wooden.
or just
It's a
not,
tree vine,
but
right?
wood wouldn't
Like,
sound. But wood wouldn't sound like that either. It sounded like someone rolled. Like it sounds like a sound effect of someone rolling a ball on a table or on a hard floor, not a softwood floor or something like that with bark. I don't know. I loved the sound, but it took me out of it. So it's like I loved what they did, and it was just so satisfying. And then I sat for a moment and was like, wait, that sound wouldn't have. Would it have? Did it have? Could it
I'm gonna
have?
need to see
I
this
don't
in
know.
slow mo now.
I gotta like.
I
turn
thought
up
it
the
was teeth all the
contrast.
way down, infinite teeth.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was infinite teeth all the way down. It looked so like not that to me. But let me
That's fair.
go. I got it right here. I'm looking at it, and YouTube compresses everything, and everything just looks like giant pixels. But I have to look at it with crazier contrast. I thought
Okay.
it was only like a couple rows of teeth, and then, but it was a cool sound effect. But I had a moment, so I'm glad I wasn't the only one, Jeannie, that thought that.
I agree
But
that
I
it
do
takes
see-
you out of the.
Ender, I do see, Arc fonts like
It
what we're
could have
talking
been
about.
teeth. Yeah. What were you saying, Christina?
Yeah, I agree that it takes you out.
Mm. Yeah, and I just trusted
I
my
still see the
ears. I just didn't even
possibility of
question
a.
it, which is a little concerning, but
I mean,
I
maybe it
really
is
like those
Rosen
wind
Rosakie.
chimes. They make those wind chimes that are made of really hard wood, but on the inside, it's a lot of spines of metal.
Yeah,
oh,
I have
so
I
it
have a few of
looks
those. Those
It
right.
those
reminds me of
woodwind.
that.
Yeah.
I
Right.
want
So
to
if
buy
you
one.
look
I've
at
been
so if
online
you
looking
look at
at them.
someone using it, you're like, whoa, it's wild that it makes that
Yeah, they had
sound.
them at the Odea.
Mm-hmm. Nini.
Yeah, that's where I saw it, and I was like, oh my God, that's the one that I want. Okay, I need to like find that.
I'll send you a link.
That's what gives me the
have.
idea that like, oh, maybe even I don't know. Yeah, I like the. Also, it's like sort of it's kind of a tentacle monster.
A tentacle monster?
Yes,
Yeah,
like that's essentially what it is, like a self-propagating
I thought so.
Tentacle
tentacle
monster.
item,
Which is very similar to a Drangir.
which is very similar to a Drangir.
Here, wait.
Oh,
And down
You have
it's
one.
got. I have a few. I'll send you the link. They're not.
there's
They have
metal
Yeah.
those little
inside.
spines.
Yeah.
Spines down there, and the thing in. Hold on. Camera. Come on. It just says that. I love these things.
Movie magic, baby.
True.
Movie magic.
I'm susceptible, I
That's
guess.
exciting. I'm very susceptible.
I think I'm
I am a
susceptible
believer.
sometimes, and then sometimes I'm just like very hyper. It depends on how much I'm. You know what? It depends on if it's senses that I feel like I can trust, and when it's like in the midst of action and it's like dark and whatever, then I often stop trusting my eyes and just trust my ears,
Yeah.
which
Mm-hmm.
probably means, yeah, it's a tarlac because it's in tar.
Tarlac.
Ah, Matthew.
That's good.
It's a self-contained wind
Maybe
chime.
that
That's
was
very
their
fun.
idea.
Maybe Tarlac. Okay, do we have any more notes about these episodes?
I think I've exhausted mine. Oh, we hear the klaxon alarm, but we know that. I always have to mention that. I love the klaxon alarm.
It's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Tarlac is very good. We might have to call that again. And hopefully it comes back. Or maybe not, because we don't need it unless there's a narrative reason for it. But
Well, we mercilessly destroyed it with.
all right.
We visited. We just came in and just killed it.
Maybe that
It
last
could become-
explosive
It could have.
was bouncing and rolling off all the other explosives and case they had already tossed into the mouth.
Okay.
That's possible.
We'll make it work, everyone. We'll make it work.
Okay.
I
See, my spatial
question
skills
Those
aren't.
explosives didn't make that sound.
Okay. I'm just realizing how little I know how things sound like in real life. It was growing out of a base full of metal and just swallowed a metal container. Yeah, That's
Yeah.
the one, Matthew.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
Thank you all for helping me with this.
Anyway, we'll be back next week to talk about just one episode, and it'll be 304.
304.
Come back to this channel at that time, at the same time, and we'll be doing that.
It'll be 304
Yay.
on 302.
On 30224.
30224, episode 304.
There's something kind of not there. There's something kind of there.
Something kind of not.
Or it just sounded cool. That's also possible, Chuck. All right. Let's do our outro. Well, we need James. No, we don't.
I'll play percussion.
Okay, thank you.